All right, are we ready to go? Matt? All clear? Okay. I couldn't see you. Right, starting the meeting now at 7 o'clock. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of Burnside Council of the 8th of March, opening at 7 p.m. As you can see, we are back in the chamber, but in order to protect members, staff and the community, we will be wearing masks throughout the meeting and the gallery is closed, with the deputations being received online. There'll be no public question time, and I welcome all of those who are watching this meeting from home. Please remain silent and stand for the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region, and that their cultural heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We also pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. And I also want to take this time to think of those currently impacted by war in the Ukraine, and hence the sunflower. Finally, we seek understanding and guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all those who reside, study, work in, or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. I'm just going to change my mask because I'm finding it really hard to breathe in this one. Yeah. So, please be patient and respectful of each other, especially with these operational conditions tonight. It is important that all views of the elected members are heard, and as advised, we will be using the auto queuing system. So use your button on your microphone to raise your hand and do not speak until I've acknowledged you. Remember also to turn off your microphone as soon as you finish speaking. Masks must be worn at all times, and please turn off your mobile phone or place it on silent. Now, we've no apologies. We do have a leave of absence, but I think that's coming up later, isn't it? Yep, that's right. Declaration of interest. Is there anyone who needs to declare an interest for this meeting? All right, no. So I need a recommendation or a mover of the minutes, confirmation of minutes. Councillor Davis, moved, seconded Councillor Hubel. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We have an adjourned business item from February 22nd meeting. We're going to be dealing with that first, and that motion was put forward by Councillor Henschke. And looking at page 7.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that Council receives and notes the minutes of the East Residents Association dated the 19th of January 2022 and notes the East Residents Association's support for a 40 km/h speed limit for Rose Park, Toorak Gardens and Dulwich. And 3, just to change the words there, to advance the community consultation and to implement a 40 km/h speed limit for Rose Park, Toorak Gardens and Dulwich in the 2022-23 financial year as per the City Master Plan objectives. So just a couple of words there, if I may. Make that adjustment to the motion, please.
Sorry, you said advance.
To advance the community consultation.
That's not
Oh, okay. So
Council advances.
just get rid of the 2 then, thank you. Council commence, advance, that council advance, thank you.
I think it should be advances though.
Thank you. Yeah.
Advances the community consultation.
Just over the, advances.
Yeah.
Just over the, advances and community.
No, it still doesn't make.
Add the word the, advances the community consultation.
Yeah, to implement 40 Acts, that's fine.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so it's a couple of weeks ago now, there was some email traffic. Councillor Hughes wrote to the administration, and you may have all noted the response from the administration. And essentially it was saying we all agree that this requires a strategic approach across the city, and then a master plan will prioritise suburbs that should be considered. So it's in the city plan already that this group of suburbs, quite uniquely surrounded by major arterials, is in the city master plan already. Further, in our workshop the other night, you may have noted that the consultation costs, the $7,000, have been, debated by the administration themselves and put to us in a workshop as part of the budget papers as being possible and doable. So there's 2 things there. Now, because the East Residents Association exists, and this matter was raised by them, and this is fully supported by the local Member of Parliament, as well as the federal member and the principal of Rose Park Primary School, I believe there is more than sufficient community awareness of this issue to advance the consultation now. The need for this is obvious and is a priority consideration for Council. I note you say we have a draft master plan, and in April we'll be going out to community consultation shortly after, and etc. And we're planning it anyway. But from a risk perspective tonight, voting down what the people in my ward want would be a tragedy. Each year in Burnside, 100 casualties, 10% are serious. We have to be decisive and lead for our community. When they ask us to do something, we can be their voice. This motion was prepared closely with our CEO, Chris Cowley, in meetings and with the ERA, and it would not be before you if I didn't have that support. The ERA met with the local member, Vicky Chapman, who fully supports, and the federal member, James Stevens, who also fully supports, and as I said, the Rose Park Primary School principal, who's also written to the Mayor recently. There are the facts. Over the last 30 years, lower urban speed limits have resulted in 26% reduction in casualties in South Australia. But our urban speed limits are still very high compared to international standards. Sagely, research reports casualties are on the rise again due to lifestyle factors. Now, this is really important. For pedestrians, the likelihood of fatality is 10% at a speed of 30 kilometres per hour and over 80% at 50 kilometres per hour. So just that 10 kilometre difference has a huge impact on the possibility of fatality. It's 100% at 70 kilometres per hour. Lower speeds in our inner city zone of Rose Park, Dulwich and Toorak Gardens will mean more people will walk and ride. Families will feel safer for their children to walk or ride to school. Now, there are environmental costs, of course, emissions are lower. So I do hope you support this. Thank you, Mayor. And it's morally the right thing to do. Thank you.
Councillor Hubel, I've got you on the screen. Are you wishing to second this?
Happy to second. Won't speak at this time.
Stage, right, Councillor David.
Yeah, I just had a question. What is the current status of our traffic management plan? Is that due back in April?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I might just refer that question to Mr. Cant.
Oh, we're going to get the voice thing again. Hopefully.
Just bear with me a second, Madam Mayor. I would just repeat the question for the... Sorry, Madam Mayor, Martin's just said the sound is really muffled in the chamber this evening.
So, Councillor Davis, to ask the question again?
Yeah, if you just restart the question. Thank you, Councillor Davis.
You might have to do it this evening. Just what's the current status of our traffic management plan?
Perhaps turn yours off, Council, if it's if...
Yeah, Councillor Hughes has to.
I've got to
Alright, there we
write
go.
it all down as soon as I see the red light. Be assured.
My understanding was that there was a citywide traffic management plan underway, and I was just wondering what the status of that was. The city master plan, yeah.
Through Madam Mayor, I've just sent a question to Mr Can over the text. So once I get a response, I will provide an answer.
I've got two before you, Councillor. Just still use your press button. As soon as I see the red light shine up, I raise
Through
my hand straight away.
Madam Mayor, I can confirm it's April for the draft to come back to Council.
Did you wish to speak, Councillor Davis? Or?
I have a question too, if I may, Madam Mayor. Could I ask what is the process to get a 40K in terms of, is there a specific consultation that needs to happen, you know, other hurdles to take? What does happen from here? Is this, obviously consultation would be part of that, but I'd just like to understand,
Yep.
to get it done, what does need to happen?
Yep, through Madam Mayor, the very basic process is we must consult with the community and they must indicate whether they are in favour or not in favour of the 40-kilometre zone. Those results then get referred to DIT, and it's DIT who ultimately makes the decision of whether an area will be applied as a 40-kilometre zone, having regard for the feedback that comes from the community.
Subsequent question?
Right, so basically what we're talking about tonight is go out to all the residents within that area, which is completely bound by arterial main roads. Are you in favour of a 40-kilometre or not? Is that as simple as this? No more, no less. Referendum.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, there could be some slight contextual data which would say that perhaps, you know, arterial roads would be left at certain speeds. But essentially, yes, it is as simple as that.
Next person's Councillor Hughes. Sorry, next is Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. I actually agree with the sentiment, but I have spoken to a resident, Councillor Henschke, who called me up during the week and spoke to me about this, and all in all, I'm in favour of looking at 40k an hour speed limits within our city, but what I'm not in favour of doing is jumping forward on the process when we actually have other suburbs that staff have recommended as part of that initial review of the master plan that should also be considered. So from staff's draft work, I understand Eastwood, Glenside, Frueville, Glenunga, as well as Beulah Park and Kensington Park, Dulwich, Toorak Gardens and Rose Park. And my understanding is that the staff have already gone and done the work to put in the draft budget bid for all of those suburbs. And I think we should be looking at the process holistically, and I appreciate that Councillor Henschke is just representing her residents, which is fantastic, but I've also had residents in my ear for the last year asking about 40k's an hour in Beulah Park, and I've been speaking to the staff as part of that process who have advised me that we're having a look at this big picture, you know, hold back basically. And so I appreciate the sentiment, and I don't disagree that we should be looking at 40k's an hour to keep our residents safe, but I think we need to be looking at it across the city and doing all of the suburbs in one hit. I mean, I know that this is just to put the budget in, but I think it's jumping in before we've had a chance to include all of our suburbs, which staff have recommended. So, you know, I'm not supporting it because I don't think it's a good idea. I won't be supporting it just because I think we need to go through the process, and there are other suburbs that should be included at the same time.
Next is Councillor Lemon.
I'm green now.
Just put your light on and then turn it off. I recorded this soon, it's just double checking as well.
No, I'm ready, thank you. I've got a couple of questions, if I may. One of them is a follow-up. Is Mr Cant just only available via text?
Through Madam Mayor, Mr Camp was supposed to be available on audio, but he's just having a slight technical issue and he's trying to resolve it as we speak.
That's...
Text, can you hear me?
Oh,
Thank you.
it's a voice from above that I'm pleased to hear.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm pleased to advise it's been resolved.
Thank you. So, I've got a couple of questions, if I might. And the first is a follow-on from Councillor Piggott's, and I had the same thoughts. We don't just jump straight to community consultation. When you say it's as simple as going straight to community consultation, we don't do this. There is work that takes place prior to that, I would have thought, in terms of identifying what roads we're talking about, what suburbs, which roads are not going to be, potentially. Is that, it's not, there is foundation work that needs to take place before we go. Am I wrong in that?
Through Madam Mayor, of course you're correct, Councillor Lemon. There is detailed work that sets out the parameters. I was just providing a very succinct answer to Councillor Piggott's question. And then obviously Council needs to determine that it's happy to even pose that question.
Yes, so it comes back to us. Yeah, but that's not my second question. And my second question is, given that we've got this plan going ahead where the detailed work, I presume, is currently taking place, is this motion, by taking this area or those three suburbs out, is this actually going to lengthen the process for that area, given we're already on the home stretch with the other? Is this going to make it slower for this particular because we're continuing with our other work, or just a question?
Through Madam Mayor, the way I'd be enacting, if this was to get up this evening, the way I'd be enacting this is that I'd be waiting until Council had adopted its budget to determine whether Council was willing to progress the other areas that the administration had recommended that we pursue, and then consider them holistically and determine our approach from there, rather than just take this in isolation at this point in time.
The next person was Councillor Davis, and then it's Councillor Carbone. I have you next.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Hughes. So, for example, in my ward as well, we have a lot of congestion, particularly along in McGill, and a number of residents have approached me over the years to look at reducing traffic speeds there as well. And my response to them was that this will be part of a citywide analysis, and that we would form part of that, particularly along, say, Roland Avenue or Brigalow Avenue in McGill is a major thoroughfare as part of a citywide master plan. So I think that it's a good thing that we come from a top-down approach, and I think that also it will give a lot more credence to it rather than rushing the queue. I understand completely that these particular residents support it, and I think they'll have that opportunity to do that when we go out to wider consultation in relation to the citywide master plan. And also think that we need to be looking at this holistically, because what are your major thoroughfares? Where are your cut-through traffic? And I've always had a real issue and a real worry that if you just do it in particular locations when you have an existing problem, that all you're doing is moving that over to the next suburb. And that's, in my view, the reason why we should have a citywide master plan, so that we can consider that implementation, because it could take a significant period of time before, a decent amount of time before we actually give effect to the citywide master plan. And in the meantime, it's great for some residents and a complete nightmare for other residents, and I don't think that's fair either. So in my view, I very much thanked Councillor Henschke for bringing the motion to Council, but I do think that we should at least, in the very least, see what the City Master Plan says and have a look at those timeframes before we progress this any further. But absolutely, I think that we should be looking at Rose Park, Truro Gardens and Dulwich as part of that, and potentially lowering the speed limits there.
1 minute to go.
Thank you.
Councillor Carbone.
Thank you, Worship. I too agree with Councillor Hughes and Councillor Davis and so forth, and I too have had phone calls from this new association and have spoken to a few of their members, And what I'm about to say to them, I'll say to you now, and that is I find this motion a little bit cheeky. I find it a little bit messy and complicated, and a little bit hurtful to the other residents in other suburbs who are also calling for a 40-kilometre-hour zone. I'm a big fan of 40-kilometre-hour speed limits. I was the one who brought forward that motion in Amber Woods, calling that for 40 k's. And we have a lot of areas, particularly in my ward, where residents are calling for 40k speed limits. In fact, I had a meeting, street corner meeting this week, with residents in Glenside calling for 40 kilometres in their particular street, which you'll hear about in due course. So it's not as though, Councillor, I'm against this, but I do find it a little bit messy that on only the 12th of April, so in only 4 weeks' time, we're going to get a report calling for a 40-kilometre-hour in 9 suburbs. So for us to cherry pick 3 and give them a bit of a favouritism and a bit of a heads up, I find it a little bit, like I said, a little bit cheeky. Let's just wait till the 12th of April, so we're fair to everyone, we're fair to the entire 9 suburbs who all deserve and need a 40-kilometre-hour zone, rather than sort of showing favouritism and giving 3 a bit of a sneaky head start. So let's just keep it clean, keep it simple, and let's wait until the 12th of April and discuss all those suburbs that are in need of this particular speed limit.
Councillor Piggott.
I take the contrary view, actually. Councillor Carbone mentioned some that have already jumped the queue in regard to 40 kilometres an hour. This has come up all over the city. In 9 weeks, we don't get a button push to have this happen. We get, as I understand it, a draft city master plan, which I think has probably swung more towards the planning side of things than transport. And in it, it has 9 suburbs that probably should be looked at 40 kilometres an hour potential. I represent suburbs that are not in the 9. So in terms of queues, I don't think, in fairness and equity and stuff, I don't think that's really the issue. This has come up at various times. Amber Woods was a good example. Made a lot of sense to put 40 in there. I voted for it, we got it up and it happened. Now, the master plan, when it comes through, I don't think will actually this is never going to be a citywide concept in my view. It's not going to be all of Burnside being 40 kilometres an hour. We'd get a lot of backlash, I feel, from that. But certain areas, and particularly ones that are bounded like these 3, and I guess the other lots of suburbs are the same that are in the master plan, they do fit the bill of fitting 40 kilometres an hour. So I actually think, rather than jumping the queue, I think what happens here is they potentially pioneer the path, to be honest. I think if we do get going on this one in regard to these suburbs and get a positive answer back, and it could go negative, this thing could say we don't want it. Only the people in the association want it, none of the rest of us want it. But on the basis that it does come back positively, I think that is actually a really good start to the process of putting 40 k's an hour into areas around the city where it works. And this one is, I feel, one of them. Now, it is odd timing, but I don't think we should be banking on the fact that the time that it will take to put the master plan out to consultation, get it back, assuming it gets the tick overall, and then we get going, it's a 12-month exercise before you get back to these 9 suburbs. Now, if this one gets going now, there's probably no reason you couldn't put the other 2 in play after it if that was the case. So I actually think this is a good test case. It's nice and manageable. I think it works. They may not want it, but if they want it, I think I'd see it something that probably would happen with DIT approval. So I think we should pass this and get it going. I think it's absolutely the way to go.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. I did ask this question of the CEO before the meeting during the week, and I think that his answer would help us with this discussion. And my question to him, which he did answer, and I think he'll probably want to share with us, is there any advantage of us doing these 3 suburbs from the perspective of the Department of Transport? Because if we do it, and it is successful, therefore we've got a greater opportunity for the other suburbs to be added. And it's a little bit like what Councillor Pickett is saying, but can you share with us your response to me as to whether it's an advantage to have a trial for these 3 suburbs based on community consultation, etc.?
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, sorry. Old habits die hard. My response to Councillor Dawes at the time was that I don't believe a trial would achieve much in the scheme of things, and I've just had confirmation from Mr Cant that to do a trial we'd actually need approval from DIT to undertake the trial, which we feel would be unlikely. We think my personal suggestion is that we would be better off just affording the community with the facts as we can apprise them at the time and seek their response, rather than trying to go through a 2-step process and seeking essentially 2 approvals from DIT, which they may be unlikely to approve a trial.
So, Councillor Dawes, that was just your question, wasn't it? Okay, thank you. Councillor Lemon?
Another question. There was Councillor Henschke was talking about pedestrians being that much safer. I actually agree with 40 kilometres, I'll just say that. And my question is, do we have this background that we're doing for the city master plan, is that pulling in some evidence about streets that are dangerous? And do we have any statistics on whether anyone's been killed or damaged in the areas that we're discussing right now, Rose Park, Toorak Gardens and Dulwich? Do we have evidence of that through crash statistics? Let's not call them road accidents.
Yes. Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer this one to Mr Cant, I think he'll be able to provide us with a good response.
Through your worship, just testing you can hear me first. Yes. Between 2016 and 2020 in these suburbs, there were a number of incidents, including property damage only, but no fatalities and 2 major injuries between that time period. It would be the same between 2011 and 2015. A number of property damages, no fatalities and 2 major injuries. That's the statistics that I pulled out today.
Got their red light on. Is this part of the work that's going to be done for the citywide master plan in all suburbs? Are we going to be looking at those sorts of statistics when we look at the 40 kilometres in terms of, is every street going to be 40 kilometres?
Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Mr Cant again.
Absolutely, yeah. We provide all of this information in developing the proposal for council to consider those areas that should be suitable for 40 kilometres speed reductions. As we've identified within the budget proposal, there are a number of suburbs that we believe would merit this approach. We would aim to do that early in the next financial year altogether, and then present that information to council prior to then proposing and applying to DIT to have that as successful.
Councillor Jones?
I had a question, if I may. If the speed limit is lowered to 40, who is responsible for enforcing the 40k speed limit?
Through Madam Mayor, SAPOL.
Councillor Davey, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question. I'd like some clarification about the financial implications, please. The paperwork that we've got implicates it at $70,000 for this round of community consultation and an extra $7,000 for engagement. Could you please clarify what that means? Thanks.
Through Madam Mayor, can I refer that to Mr Cant, please?
Through your worship, so I wasn't able to hear the figures exactly, but just clarification from my end. We've suggested that if we concentrated just on these three suburbs, we can undertake that for $7,000. That's the information we provided within the budget papers. If we looked at all of the suburbs that we're recommending through the draft city master plan, we believe we can do that for $20,000, and that would be direct mail out.
Could I speak now? Thank you, Madam Mayor. I entirely agree with the sentiments of Councillor Henschke's motion. I'm all for having 40k per hour speed limit on all of our council roads throughout Burnside. I think for safety and amenity, for residential amenity, business amenity, in every way it would be desirable. But that's a big road to jump. Our master plan, on which we've done a lot of work, as we've heard, is being brought to us next month, so that's in 4 weeks' time. And my community in Kensington Park Walk, as Councillor Hughes has already outlined, is earmarked for 40k per hour speed limits in Beulah Park, who are crying out for it with all of the issues that they've got, as we'll hear later on tonight, and Kensington Park. So while I understand the sentiment of this and support it, I think it's beneficial for the whole of council that we consider all these aspects under the master plan. So that's how I'll be voting to support the master plan in total, and not, while I understand the sentiments of bringing this forward, I think it's fairer to the other communities in Burnside that also would be affected, that we deal with it in the master plan. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. I fully support this motion as it stands. 40 k's an hour, as you know, I've asked it many times in the public, in the annual community survey to be included. It's been an issue that's always been on my residents' mind for a very long time. I'm glad that the East Residents Association is behind it and gaining support for it. I would also suggest that we do support this motion. I like Councillor Piggott's suggestion that this could be the pilot, the pioneer that will break through all the other suburbs and give us the evidence that we need that'll actually work. And these are the three suburbs that are closest to a lot of the bottlenecks for the CBD in the ring route. And you've got the two main corridors that go between the ring route and the National Highway. And it's that we get a lot of rat running through these three suburbs. Someone who's lived there for 43 years, I have seen the increase in traffic. And to actually advance these three suburbs ahead and actually lock them in that the consultation will go ahead, because we've got no guarantee that this chamber will actually approve or the draft master plan going out to consultation when we want. We might want changes in it, and that might delay things. So I would like to actually see these three suburbs go ahead. So please, I'm pleading with you to let's just test these out, and please vote for it. Thank you.
Councillor Lemon.
Thank you. I applaud the sentiments too, but I don't think it should be going ahead by itself. I feel that, and in terms of what Councillor Piggott said, we've spent a lot of time actually getting staff involved in a city master plan for traffic, and they've identified those suburbs that we all know about, and that includes Eastwood, that has been desperate for 40 kilometres for a long time. Talk about being on arterial roads, Fullerton and Glen Osmond, also Glenside, also Frueville, where you get an enormous amount of traffic because the supermarket is proximity to Glen Osmond Road. And I actually think that we do need to do this as a group. I can't see how this motion, as much as I applaud it and good on the residents getting behind it, I can't see how this motion is going to make it any quicker for Dulwich Rose Park and Toorak Gardens. And I also have some serious reservations, and in terms of what Councillor Cornish just said, this is 40 kilometres an hour. it's not going to stop rat running. You want to stop rat running? We've got to start talking about closing roads, because people compare this to Unley, and it is not the same. Unley suburbs, yes, they are 40 kilometres, but the only two roads that go through Unley are Fisher Street and Wattle Street in terms of the suburbs. The rest of it's a maze unless you know the place really well. There's no point in doing rat runs through there. So people will continue doing rat runs through Glenunga, through Glenside, through Eastwood, through Frueville and through Dulwich, because the roads aren't closed. So I think we need to be clear at what we're achieving here. This is achieving a lesser speed limit, a lesser speed in traffic. It is not achieving less traffic. It's just achieving slower traffic. And I think this motion, whilst I applaud everyone that's brought it here, including Councillor Henschke, if this gets up, it's not going to be that much quicker. And I think it will be much more efficient for us to go out to community consultation for all the suburbs that we've already earmarked, and to do it as a group. I think there's a lot of savings to be made and a lot of reputational stuff. Everybody will be talking about it. Why do it in a piecemeal way? I think that we should wait till it comes back from administration, where we've got the background, we've got the evidence bases, we've got the streets that are really difficult, and we make our decision and we go out and it gets implemented, not 40 kilometres just in that ward, but in all the surrounding wards as well. Because as Councillor Davey said, it just moves to another area. This is what we've got to stop. And I think that we've got to go down that path, that we'd actually...
Time.
I won't be supporting it, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to point out to everyone before I hear from Councillor Jones, and that is that there'll be certain roads potentially within that area anyway that DIT won't allow to reduce the speed, especially those that are taking the bus routes, major bus routes like Grant Avenue. So there will be places where, in spite of what we say, and we all know once you change the speed on one road with calmers or whatever, potentially the traffic moves to another road. So I just want, that's for information, and now I'll hear from Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to support this motion. I think Councillor Piggott's right, and notwithstanding the CEO's comments, I think trials in government are a good idea. Look how great our pump track trial was in paving the way for a skate park. Oh, should I mention that?
Separate things.
I think it's a good idea to try this out in 3 suburbs. I think it's easier. It would be easier to get this across the line than going big bang on 9 suburbs. We can say, let's do 3. We can do it, and then everyone else in Burnside can have a look at it and say, oh yeah, maybe 40 is not causing the sky to fall down on us. And we'll have some demonstrable evidence to go out to people to the other 6 suburbs. And maybe there'll be other suburbs then say, on top of the 9, hey, maybe we can have it too. And that would get Councillor Davies' wish to have everywhere 40. So I think this is worth pursuing, and I'll support it.
Right, Councillor Davey.
I have another question, just based on what has been said. How long will it take to undertake this process, and what effect would that have on the master plan process?
Through Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr Cant, but I'll note that the recommendation talks about the 22-23 financial year, so nothing would commence until the start of the next financial year anyway, but I'll get Mr Cant to clarify the more minute details.
Thank you, Chris. Yep, through the Mayor, this consultation wouldn't commence until the 22-23 financial year. We would have to take under a consultation with the residents within that suburb. We would then need to analyse that response and provide the report back to council. That could be a matter of a couple of months at that stage. We would then, depending on the results of that consultation and then council's direction to us then, we would either stop the process or we would apply to DIT based on that information. it's almost impossible to tell you how long DIP will take to turn that around, but I would hazard a guess that it would be another 3 months at least.
Councillor Davey.
Just a follow-up question then. In terms of the master plan, through you to the CEO, in terms of the master plan, can you give us some timelines about, I know we've done a lot of work already, if that goes out to community consultation, if we have a package to go out, what the timelines are for that in terms of how that would come back to council and then what decision making could be done in the budget cycle?
Certainly. Through you, Madam Mayor, Mr Cant has those timelines at hand, I think.
Yeah, through the Mayor, as I suggested earlier on, the first draft is coming to council in early April, the first meeting in April. Subject to council approving that to proceed to community consultation, it's estimated that the full draft, the full master plan will be back to council in early 22-23, so estimated in July. We are aware of the recommendations within the draft master plan, and that's why we've also submitted a budget bid to undertake this 40 km/h consultation, so we can actually move quickly with that in the new financial year, subject to council approval of the budget.
Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, just another question. When you do the consultation, CEO, and say, well, do you split it between the 3 suburbs? So say it happens Rose Park and Dulwich are 80% in favour, but Toorak Gardens is only 40%, or do you do it as a whole, and if more than 50% are in favour, then we proceed?
Through Madam Mayor, I might get Mr Cant to clarify how it handle the suburbs / the whole. But my understanding is DIT have removed their requirement. They used to have very hard and fast percentage requirements on the response. But my understanding is they may have removed those hard and fast percentage details and taken other details into account as well. But Mr Cant might be able to elaborate a bit further.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, that's correct. DIP certainly had a previous percentage rate that they must hit prior to approving this process, and we have actually tried in suburbs in the past that have not passed that test. And I think I picked up on your question correctly there, Councillor Dawes, and that ultimately, when we do consultation, we do provide some consideration towards those who are directly affected. So those who provide a response directly from those suburbs will certainly be weighted in some aspect, and that will be reflected in our recommendation to council, but it will be up to council to ultimately make that decision on how to proceed.
Councillor Lemon.
Yes, thank you. I've got another question, and it's a follow-up from Councillor Jones. Can you tell me what the likelihood is of a 40 km/h zone being implemented in Rose Park, Dulwich and Toorak Gardens before we go into community consultation for the other suburbs vis-a-vis the strict city master plan?
Through Madam Mayor, you're potentially asking a question we can't answer, but I'll see if Mr Cant has a response.
So the question is, what's the likelihood of a 40k zone being implemented before we go out to community consultation for the others?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I misunderstood the question. I think it's highly unlikely given DIT's timeframes, but I'll see if Mr Cant's got any further clarity.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. By the time that the master plan is expected to be adopted by council, it would be unlikely that we would be out to consultation on this anyway.
Yes.
So what sort of time frame, what's the advantage of this particular motion? How many months earlier does it mean that those areas are going to potentially get a 40k zone?
Through you, Madam Mayor, can I refer that to Mr Cant?
Through your worship, I don't personally see the need for this motion. I believe regardless of whether this motion gets up, Council will be considering through the budget to undertake this process anyway, but it will be doing it as part of a much wider range of a trial and within the 22-23 process. Whether or not we do this separate or not, it might be a matter of a month separate, but I don't see a huge need to do this because we're planning to do it anyway.
Councillor Piggott.
Just following up on this sort of speculation, would it be fair to say, sorry, a question to the CEO probably. Yeah, that's all I've got left anyway. Well, actually, I just wanted to consider that perhaps that answer just now was whether you consider it presumptuous on the fact that we have as yet not seen the draft, the final draft, to go out to consultation of the master plan, and we haven't seen the results of the public consultation of the master plan. Is it perhaps a little presumptuous of those two exercises to make an answer such as the one that was just given, that would have the master plan go forward, all suburbs being thrown out there into this sort of exercise that we are, if it comes tonight, this would start potentially on the 1st of July. Aren't we presuming quite a lot about an exercise of a very large piece of work being the master plan to say that it would be very close coming in behind that? It is slightly rhetorical, but if you choose to answer, that's fine.
Through Madam Mayor, I guess the facts are that for the other locations that we've perhaps muted this evening, Council won't have officially made its decision until the 30th of June when it adopts the budget, and that's the point where Council will be deciding whether it wishes to proceed with those locations. So it may be presumptive to consider this evening in light of the fact that we were going to consider them all as a group as part of the budget process. But it was a slightly rhetorical question.
I'd just like to ask a question, actually, in terms of how this is planned to be distributed. I'm going to assume this is going to be posted to everyone who lives in those 3 suburbs, and the same thing would apply to all the other suburbs when their process begins, that they'll be postal. There's no way we can put it with a focus because focus goes to everyone, but only those areas are going to be, have addresses in those council areas will be, I'm assuming, will be asked.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, I might just get Mr. Cant to confirm the method of delivery.
Through your worship, I don't have the specific budget details in front of me, but that is my understanding, and that's why the difference in costs was scaled up between these 3 suburbs, and if we did it the wider 9 suburbs, and it's my understanding that's because we would directly communicate with each of those residences via mail.
And I concur with that response, Madam Mayor, because there's a danger that if it's put within a focus, it may be lost and not seen as specific engagement.
But there's also all sorts of problems with the postal system too, in terms of they don't actually see our boundaries very clearly. Anyway, I'm aware that, Councillor Hubel, you haven't actually spoken as the seconder of the motion, and I have no one else in front of me right now. Do you now wish to speak?
I will, thank you, Your Worship. Nina Marnie, greet you all this evening. Look, really good debate on this. Our motions on notice in this chamber tend to generate quite a lot of chat. And it's a funny old issue, the 40 kilometres an hour. It's probably the one issue since coming into the chamber I've probably been so surprised about when reading community surveys. The general vibe that I've gotten over the nearly 4 years that I've been here is that every time we ask the community at large whether they like 40 kilometres an hour, it's a fairly consistent no. in the official statistical surveys we've received, which kind of flies in the face of the feedback we get from residents about the speed limits. Look, I know that I haven't been approached about, Linden Park, for example, but I dare say there's probably a good chunk of people in Linden Park that would be very interested in exploring 40 kilometres an hour. Contrarily, Waterfall Gully Road residents are dead set against it. There's no way on God's green earth do they want to go down from 60, and they're really quite passionate about that. So it's right that we're looking at 40 kilometres an hour in the city master plan, and we do have a plan to look at it quite holistically. But by the same token, I like it. I like it when residents take initiative on issues. I really like that the Eastern Residents Association, who, to my understanding, are a very well-informed residents association, and looking through their minutes, they're aware of the presence of 40 kilometres an hour in the citywide master plan. And they, from how I see this, is the residents of Toorak Gardens, Dulwich and Rose Park are putting their hand up and going, yes, 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 yes. Well, the Residents Association is saying, yes, 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 yes. Let's go on this. We know it's coming up in the master plan because we care enough about this to keep ourselves informed. And they're saying, bring it on. And I don't mind putting them at the front of the queue because of that. I think there's a lot of very worthy areas, and we are going about it the right way by looking at it holistically. But if the initiative of this Residents Association means they're the first ones off, I think good luck to them, and may it be an example to the rest of our community that voice, connection with your local councillors, your ward councillors makes a difference.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, I just realised that wasn't on the mic.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hubel, your words, you have spoken in the right way. You are speaking as an elected member, because that's what you do. You are an elected member for people, and I thank you for everything you've said tonight, and I thank my co-councillor Peter Cornish, who tried to press the buzzer but got in before Hubel. So thank you, Councillor Cornish, who's lived in the area for his life. He knows that area. And thank you to Councillor Piggott for thinking through this project. It's a project for the whole city. Now, what we want to achieve is we want to lower speed because we know speed kills. It's taken 30 years across the world to get that through our minds, and many years to get seatbelts on us. People didn't want seatbelts. We've been there, done that. We know speed is the issue. We want to lower speed in the city. We know speed reduces volume as well. So to get that project effectively done for the whole city, for all elected members that represent all the people in the city, an approach like this, in this project, it's like a project execution plan. Let's think about the way we're going to execute this project. Yes, it's worked that Unley, City of Port Adelaide, all done it. They have little bits that are 40 and then they put to debt the case study. They say, right, we've got this area, it's 40, it's working fine, these are the lessons learned, we want to do these other areas, and DIC considers all of that. That gets them all over the line, faster. I've studied the reports, the 80-page reports from the City of Port Adelaide. They've done all of that. Unley, the same. Unley's messy. It sounds like, the road closures and whatever, but the facts with Unley is that speed reduction is the key. So all I can say is any delays are really, because the community has spoken out and I'm here, their voice, we are delaying I know we might think we might not delay, but there is a presumption, as Councillor Pickett said, we may be delaying. We don't want to be bogged down in bureaucracy and reports, big reports. A city plan is a huge report. It's not just about this little 40k zone topic. It covers heaps of other things. So I really don't want anyone to be hurt on any streets in the city of Burnside. Any delays, anything we do tonight that does that is morally wrong. So please, I know you've got very strong views one way and very strong views the other. You can change your mind now when you vote. And as Councillor Cornish said, he's pleading for you to change your mind. It won't hurt. Just put your hand up. Thank you.
All those in favour? Those against? 6 all.
And a division? Division.
I'm actually quite torn with this because I don't like queue jumping. But then on the other hand, there is real pressure and it has been pushed to the fore. I'm not confident that they're going to see the results any faster than anyone else, but I am inclined to go and support this motion. I have had conversations with the principal. I haven't spoken with the East residents, but I certainly have with the school. And there are issues there, but there are also issues. It's going to take DIT a long time to get themselves together, and we need to know, we also need to know how this is actually going to impact, because there are going to be roads in that area that are not going to be allowed to be reduced to 40Ks, and that's what worries me. But we're going to find out. And that will maybe give us some ideas to how DIT are going to respond to some of the other areas. So I will support this.
And division, Mayor.
Want to call a division?
A division, please.
All
Thank
those
you.
who voted in favour, please stand. Councillor Henschke, Councillor Cornish, Councillor Piggott, Councillor Dawes, Councillor Jones, Councillor Hubel, and the Mayor. And against, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Davey, Councillor Davis, Councillor Lemon, Councillor Carbone, and Councillor Turnbull. Nobody changed their mind. So the motion was carried. Sorry, I needed to stand. I've stood now. Now we move to public presentations, and the first we welcome 3 deputations this evening. The first one is from Karen Hallam, speaking to item 10.4.2, that is the petition, traffic management on the streets surrounding Haslam Oval. So we just have to wait for a few moments for Karen or Ms. Hallam to come online.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Ms. Hallam, I'm not sure if you are aware you have 5 minutes speaking time with a warning bell at 4 minutes, and then please stay online at the end of your speech so that you residents, elected members may ask questions of you at the end. So
Yes.
The timer starts when you start speaking. If you would just preface your deputation with your name and your suburb. You don't have to give your full address. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. My name is Karen Hallam and I live in Gers Road at Beulah Park. I'm speaking tonight in support of the petition which asks Council to support residents of Beulah Park in Kensington Park by addressing issues impacting our residential amenity, namely inappropriate parking, traffic volume and congestion caused largely by the weekend use of Haslam Oval. Over 200 residents signed the petition. 115 of those affected residents who signed in good faith have had their signatures rejected because they did not include the full name of their suburbs on the petition form. This is extremely disappointing, as is the fact that to date, I, as head petitioner, have had no correspondence from council staff in this regard. One would hope that the concerns of those 115 affected residents matter as much to Council as those of the 98 that have been deemed valid, and I ask you to please not discount their concerns on the matter at hand. I am directly affected by weekend events on the Oval. I live opposite the entrance to the Oval car park and frequently have trouble getting out of my driveway, either because somebody has parked across it or because of traffic congestion. Vehicles turning out of the Oval in both directions onto Gers Road, coupled with the traffic entering Gers Road from the parade, creates traffic jams, often further complicated by cars parked on both sides of the road. Saturday football games on the Oval draw large crowds and many more cars than can be accommodated in the car park. This forces patrons to park in the surrounding streets, often inappropriately. And while it is great to see the games being so well supported, I and many other residents are finding it increasingly difficult to live with the dangerous traffic conditions that exist because of it. Similarly, Little Athletics on Sunday mornings also creates issues for the same reason and with the same result. I've lived in Beulah Park for 19 years and have seen much residential and commercial development in that time, bringing with it an increase in the volume of traffic and further contributing to the parking issues in our streets. Housing density in our area is only likely to increase as
Sorry. How are we going?
Can the chamber hear me? Oh, I'm so sorry. I think our internet just dropped out.
I think perhaps if you start at the beginning of the paragraph that you were reading at the time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and if necessary, you can have additional time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And if you could just increase your volume a little too.
I'm sorry?
Could you just speak a little louder too, please?
Yes, I will. The parade between Gers Road and Salop Street has gone from being little more than a couple of delis, a bakery and a bookshop when I first moved to the area, to what it is today: a bar, a restaurant, a deli, a health service, 2 hairdressing salons and a takeaway shop. And while these developments have undoubtedly brought a wonderful vibrancy to the area, most have no off-street parking facilities of their own. Parking on this stretch of the parade is probably quite adequate for people popping into the deli for a pie, but not for most of the businesses that exist there today. Patrons must park their cars somewhere while they linger at the bar, enjoy their dinner or get their hair done, and inevitably they park in the narrow streets that run off the parade. Being involved in the petition gave me an insight into the concerns of my local community. Congestion at the Gers Road parade intersection was a recurring one, with some residents feeling it's safer to avoid this intersection altogether. Difficulty in driving down Salop Street was another. Despite the fact that parking is restricted to one side, Salop Street really struggles with two-way traffic. Many residents feel unsafe because of speeding motorists too, particularly on Beulah and Gers Roads. So the petition respectfully asks Council to help us maintain our residential amenity in these suburbs we call home by implementing measures that prioritise residents. These are the things that we would like you to consider. Please conduct a traffic management survey to determine the volume and speed of traffic in the streets surrounding Haslam Oval. Please also consider the following measures to help regulate parking and traffic volume in our suburbs. One-way traffic system for Gers Road and Salop Street, a 40km/h speed limit for the streets surrounding Haslam Oval, increased residents-only permit parking, improved visibility of restricted parking signs, increased ranger patrols, and improved road markings, particularly on street corners, to discourage inappropriate and unsafe parking.
1 minute to go.
To summarise, I can assure you that the traffic and parking conditions I have tried to highlight are real and are shared by many in the local community. The measures that have been suggested for your consideration could make a very big and very positive impact, not only on the lives of the affected residents who signed the petition, but for the wider community of Beulah Park and Kensington Park. I hope they'll be favourably received by Council and that you will help us to overcome the challenges I've spoken about tonight. I very much appreciate the opportunity of speaking to you, and I thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you very much for coming in. Councillor Dawes, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Hello, Karen. Councillor Dawes here. I've just checked while you're talking, and your house is behind the grandstand. Is that correct? Have I got that right?
Yes, basically it is. Yes, my house is almost directly opposite the entry gate on Gers Road to the Oval Car Park.
Okay. So my question is, and I'm supposing you've lived there for a few years, has it got worse over the last 5 years?
Yes, it really has gotten worse over the last 5 years. I mean, look, I love where I live, and I accept that living across the road from a sporting facility such as Haslam Oval comes with some small inconveniences and a need for compromise. However, the inconveniences are escalating, and I feel they can't be left unchecked.
So does that mean there's more activity on the Oval than before?
I'm sorry?
Is there more activity on the Oval than in the past?
I wouldn't say that there's more activity on the Oval. There is definitely more traffic though, and perhaps the events, particularly Saturday football, is drawing larger and larger crowds. And I wonder if perhaps, the development of that stretch of the parade that I spoke about, which is also bringing extra traffic to the area, isn't compounding the issue that we experience, particularly on the weekends.
Thank you, Karen.
Councillor Davis, you had your... no longer need to? Okay, thank you. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming along, Karen, to give us your deputation and for collecting the petition. As one of the people who collected the petition, I know a lot of work was put into it. And in relation to these signatures, I've taken that on board, and I'll certainly be raising that issue. I think it's quite confusing for our community about how signatures are recorded on petitions and what's exactly required for them. So I've noted that there is well over 200 signatures to that petition, and that means that, as you've highlighted, there are 200 people who are very concerned about the difficulties they're experiencing with traffic and parking in the area. I just wanted to ask you, it was interesting that you mentioned suggesting one-way streets. Could you elaborate a little bit more, please, on that? I didn't quite hear what your arguments were for and the benefits of those would be. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So firstly, clearly I'm not an expert in traffic management, hence the request for an expert analysis of the situation. But it does occur to me that given there is such difficulty navigating Salop Street for a start, and that Gers Road often, when being through roads as well, going from the parade through to McGill Road, when there is parking on both sides, the streets just aren't wide enough to accommodate two-way traffic, and that is especially true of Salop Street. And so it occurred to me, and it's come up in conversations with other residents as well, that perhaps it would be safer if Salop Street was a one-way street taking traffic one way, and Gers Road was a one-way street taking traffic the other way. it would certainly alleviate, I think, some of those traffic jam type situations that tend to occur when you've got traffic coming both ways down those roads and there is parking on both sides.
Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Karen. You've gone to lots of effort here with the residents and engaging with them. And did you know that there's going to be a city-wide master plan that is looking for such problems from the community to study, and there are traffic engineers with their eyes all over the city at the moment?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Right, okay, so that's, in the pipeline, and I guess your elected members could talk to you about it. But that's coming up very soon, so thank you for doing all this engagement and highlighting the issues. So I don't know if there's something, my question actually to the administration through the Mayor, please, is are the engineers...
No, save that for the debate.
Oh, the debate, yeah. I'll ask a question in the debate. Thank you, Karen.
We're only asking questions of the...
of the resident. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Councillor Davis, you did press your button again. You wish to speak now or ask a question?
Do you think thanks Karen for coming in. Do you think a 40-kilometre-hour speed limit in the area would assist?
I do. I really do. Particularly, I think, particularly on Gers Road and Beulah Road, engaging with the community in something like a petition. I think it's a real eye-opener, and a lot of people are really concerned about speeding, particularly on Beulah Road. But I think just given how busy these suburbs are and how narrow the streets are, anything that we can do to improve the safety, and I think a 40k speed limit would certainly go some way to doing that.
Well, thanks very much for your deputation, and I certainly know the chaos that can be on that corner. So.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in, Ms Hallam, and doing your deputation, and you'll no doubt stay on and listen to the debate that follows. Thank you very much.
There won't be any debate, right?
Oh, sorry, there's no debate tonight, so we're just receiving the petition. Yeah. Yes, you have. That's what I thought. Yeah. All right. I took that off the microphone. All right. We now have a deputation from Miran Baram, speaking on the motion 13.2, dangerous driving and illegal rubbish dumping on Coach Road and Haven Road, Skye.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm not sure if you heard the last deputy speak, but you have 5 minutes. If you just announce yourself, your name and the suburb that you live in before you start speaking, you have 5 minutes with a warning bell at 4 minutes. Right, thank you. Off you go.
Right, thanks. My name is Miran Baram and I live in Coach Road, Skye.
You'll have to speak. You'll have to speak a little louder, please.
So my name is Miran and I live in Skye. I lived in Skye for about 17 years now, very close to the end of Coach Road where the Skye Lookout is. I wanted to give a little bit intro to the Skye Lookout. I'm not sure if everybody is familiar. So this is a very beautiful area close to the CBD, has a panoramic view of basically most of Adelaide and the Adelaide Hills. It's also an important habitat for wildlife like koalas and echidnas and kangaroos and a lot of birds. It's adjacent to Horsnell Gully Conservation Park and to the Mount Lofty walking tracks. Over time, a lot of people visit it for hiking, cycling, picnicking, watching sunsets, and just enjoying the wildlife. At the same time, I live in Coach Road, which it's very long, steep road, has 2 sharp bends in it, and a big crest at the top of it that makes it very hard to see what's going on. It also has an open verge and no curb at the top of Coach Road. and quite narrow at the top end of Coach Road. It also has Haven Road, which is continuation in some part to Coach Road, and that it's a dirt road and it ends up in Horsnell Gully Conservation Park next to the White Rock Quarry. So the problems that I'm raising here is relating first of all to the speed. So unfortunately, the combination of really beautiful area and the dangerous road features that are there attracts quite significant number of people that drive really dangerously and carelessly there. And I've seen it from the time me and my family moved there. And we experience it almost daily, that we see racing on Coach Road and Haven Road, especially in evenings and weekends. And sometimes they drive also on the verge, especially at the top of Coach Road. And in the last couple of years, especially, this issue has been intensified because of the closure of other lookouts like the Kensington lookout, and also because the COVID-19 pandemic seems to enable other people to suddenly explore the area more thoroughly, and found out that this area is actually quite interesting place to be. So as a father of 3 children, when they were young, I was really concerned about the issue of their safety. And this is something that was also echoed by other residents, that because of the driving, especially in the evening and nighttime, and because there's no footpath for pedestrians, then they avoid their children to go out on the street. And over the years, there were several major accidents. The last one was in January, where a car ended up in the house of the 74 Coach Road. Other incidents that probably weren't reported to the police, but been seen by other residents have been also reported to me. What I've seen myself is many drivers, quite young, having just gained their P license, driving there. And certainly through the in the weekend and nighttime, we can see a lot of traffic going on.
1 minute to go.
On top of that, there is also a lot of rubbish that is accumulated, especially at the top of Coach Road. And that is concerned also because it shows cigarette packets and a lot of empty alcoholic drinks that might relate also to the driving. And it also causes a lot of noise. On top of that, what we can see here, that there is a lot of risk, it seems, to residents, hikers, cyclists, and as well as the wildlife and the environment in the area. And really the measures that I've wanted to highlight are traffic calming measures, is to highlight a starting point for a serious discussion and a community consultation, not to stop visitors, but allow basically all the visitors that enjoy the area to come here and appreciate the nature, but in a safe and proper manner.
Time.
Yeah, thank you for your time and yeah, for letting me speak. Yeah.
Thank you for coming in. Councillor Dawes, you have a question to ask of him?
Yes, thank you for coming in. I didn't quite catch some of what you said, so you may have covered it, but I think there's going to be a petition. Are you organising a petition amongst your residents?
Yeah, so I'm currently organising petitions. Currently I have about 34 signatures on that, but I'm still trying to collect more in the area. And as the news travels, it seems like there are more people on, not only on Coach Road and Haven Road, that wants to voice their concern, but also in other areas of Skye. So I'm still trying to collect more signatures.
And when do you think that petition would be given to the council?
I probably can give what I have now, but probably another couple of weeks to see if I can collect more from other residents.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to? Councillor Pickett, you wish to ask a question?
Yes. Thanks for taking the time you're on. Councillor Pickett here. I was just wondering whether, can you sort of give us an idea of how often the dangerous driving up Coach Road is happening?
So how often?
Yeah, how often?
Yeah, so basically every day I can see and other residents see dangerous driving, the people that it's obviously driving above the speed limit. And we've seen also with the traffic surveys that some of the cars were driving in excess of 400 kilometers per hour, with the highest I think that was recorded in the devices was 153 kilometers per hour. And most I think of the reckless driving happens that late at night, so from about sunset up to middle of the night sometime.
Thank you. Councillor Henschke, you have a question?
Oh, yes, thank you. Through the Mayor to the resident, please. Thank you for coming in. Are residents calling the police when they hear these vehicles racing through on gangs and so forth? I know there's been accidents, of course, police have been there, but when are there often call-outs for police to come out?
So there several times many residents have called the police, but most time until they come, they can't see really the problem because the drivers already left. Sometimes they don't come at all, the police, or they if they have a regular time that they actually come and visit, it usually during the day and during the normal week, but not the weekend. So you don't see the police just circling the area in the peak, I think, trouble time when drivers are actually most misbehaved.
If there are no other further questions, thank you very much, Mr. Barham, for coming in and speaking to us. And you'll be able to listen to the debate later on this evening. Right, our final deputation is from Lathan Limberopoulos. And he's speaking to item 10.4.1, the petition regarding Lockwood Road vehicle speeds.
Good evening. Yes, this is Nathan Limberopoulos and I live in Burnside. Thank you for accepting my request to participate in tonight's forum, and a big thank you to Jennifer Turnbull, who's been instrumental in providing us with some guidance on how to have this issue addressed. This evening, I'm representing the signatories within the petition in front of you and the users of Lockwood Road, including the children and caregivers of the Burnside Kindy, the ECH, the Burnside Church members, patrons of the Lockwood Road General, and the children of Burnside Primary School. All the mentioned sites are located within the High Street Lockwood Road and Stanborough Lockwood Road intersections. It is this part of Lockwood Road that we are petitioning for action, specifically the introduction of slow points. Sorry, I just had my internet just went down. Sorry, I've converted back to 4G. The mentioned groups and residents that reside within this part of Lockwood Road are continuously subjected to vehicles travelling way above the 50 kilometre speed limit. For the last couple of years, select residents have raised concerns associated with speeding for council administration to advise that registered speeds during survey periods are within tolerance. Before I share the survey outcomes, I want to advise that so far in 21-22 financial year, 4 car accidents have occurred on Lockwood Road and been reported to police, with an additional accident which occurred, which was minor and wasn't reported to police. With respect to the recorded speeds obtained from the study that was conducted by Council in 2020, which included 2 checkpoints, one of which is located in the region that we are talking about tonight, confirmed that in a 24-hour period, 184 cars were recorded as travelling above 55 kilometres, with the top speed recording 90 kilometres per hour. It'd be fair to say that speeds of up and around 70 kilometres an hour on Lockwood Road is not unusual. My question, and the question of the people that have signed the petition, is how is this within tolerance? We, the residents of Lockwood Road that reside within this part of Lockwood Road, are pleading with Council to cease further studies and to actually take some action. There is a study happening right now which will tell a very similar story, and the question that we ask is why we're doing another study. Inexpensive and effective measures can be taken to bring vehicle speeds under 50 kilometres per hour. In a built-up area like the one we are talking about tonight, there is a kindy, a primary school, ECH and church. Surely logic has to prevail in having a lower tolerance to these excessive speeds. We respectfully request for urgent action through the introduction of some slow points. It is noteworthy that the petition that is in front of you only included residents that live in this part of Lockwood Road. We could extend out the petition if required, but we have the full support of all residents that reside within the intersections of Stattenborough, Lockwood Road and High Street and Lockwood Road. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions? We have one from Councillor Turnbull to start with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Nathan, for your input into this issue. This issue's been concerning residents on Lockwood Road for several years, since our term in council. My question is, from your experience of living on Lockwood Road for several years, can you talk about which is the most prevalent part of the road with regard to accidents?
Based on the last financial year, there's been 3 of the 4 reported car accidents in this vicinity that we are talking about, between the High Street and Lockwood Road intersection and the Stattenborough and Lockwood Road intersection. All which could have been avoided if the car or the car travelling down Lockwood Road was going at a slower speed.
Thank you. I've got one more question, may I? Nathan, how does the school traffic impact you? Slightly
Say
off
that
the
again.
topic, but just when the people queue up to pick their children up from the school right by your house, does that impact you?
The school that's right by my house, has that impacted?
Sorry?
He's asking you a question.
Oh.
He's asking you a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't quite get it. Got to speak up for me.
If I can clarify.
Yeah, I was going to clarify it too.
I think the question was, is the school traffic impacting upon you?
The actual school and its impact, the only thing that the school does for this area as far as its impact to traffic is obviously congestion. You're going to get far more cars coming through, but I think that goes with having a school next to you, and for us that's not a real issue. Kids need to go to school, the kids need to be picked up and dropped off. There's no issue there. Our issue is this excessive speed, and it'd be fair to say that the parents that are dropping the children off are unlikely to be the primary causes of the people that are speeding. I'm pretty confident to say that the majority of the people that would be speeding down Lockwood Road are the people that use Lockwood Road as an interconnector between Greenhill Road and Kensington Road. And also people that live away from Lockwood Road that use it just to get through. But I'd be very confident to say that I'd be very surprised if we've got the parents of the children dropping off that are actually speeding.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Dawes.
G'day, Nathan. How are you going? It's been a long journey for you, I know, and in the meantime you've been a father as well, so it's been probably more than 2 years. I just want to acknowledge your persistence in pursuing this matter, but I have a question for you. In your discussions with residents, what traffic calming device do you believe, or the residents and yourself believe, would be the best solution to allay your concerns about speeding on Lockwood Road?
I think this is dependent on, so before I share what the residents have shared with me, my personal views, I think it's really dependent on what are the speeds that are recorded where there's the roundabouts. See, between High Street and Lockwood Road intersection and Stattenborough and Lockwood Road intersection, there's no calming devices at all. So that's a very long stretch. Hence why when people come down the hill from Greenhill Road, they really get their speed as they pass through the Burnside Church and make their way down the Stattenborough-Lockwood Road intersection, where they then come up against a roundabout that forces them to slow down. So something of that nature in between, like I don't know, are they called slip lanes? I don't know what the terminology is, but something like that may work.
Yeah,
Other suggestions that have been put forward by residents, and this was actually by a few, mentioned the work that's been done on Beulah Road in the Norwood Paynham Council. There's like raised areas that are, I think, bricked. And that has apparently, and again, I haven't looked at the data, so I can't confirm, but what I do understand is that has had some good effect on slowing vehicles. And the last one that was raised with me was Angus Road in Mitcham, but that didn't actually have any calming devices per se. They've just made it a 40-kilometre zone. But my feeling on that is that unless you're policing it, you're still going to have the same issue.
Okay. Well, if you look at Dulwich Avenue, that's got those sort of devices on it, Nathan. But I'm going to ask whether you thought a roundabout at High Street, coming down Lockwood Road, because the roundabouts at Stattenborough and Godfrey certainly slow down the traffic. Do you think that would be something that could be useful to slow down the traffic?
Having a roundabout at the High Street Lockwood Road intersection, but then not having anything till Stattenborough Lockwood Road wouldn't help. But if you do have something in between, and I've got a bad connection with you, I think you mentioned Godfrey. Is that what you said?
Thank you.
Councillor Hughes, you're next.
Madam Mayor, the gentleman had a question. It was a question to Councillor Dawes confirming whether you mentioned Godfrey Street. No, that was the question that the gentleman had of you. Did you mention Godfrey Street?
Godfrey Terrace. Okay. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Nathan, for your presentation this evening. I am one of those parents who use Lockwood Road, and hopefully I'm not one that, that speeds. I guess I was just wondering whether there are any particular times of days or whether this is on weekends that you see these incidents happening. I know you mentioned it's not specifically around school, but is it around, sporting events, or is it just all around something that consistently occurs?
From what's visible to myself, and look, I don't spend a whole heap of time in my front yard, but when I'm coming out of my driveway, it's sporadic. It can happen in the morning, it can happen in the evening, it can happen during the day. It is very random, but I will have to say that weekends you see more of it. And I don't know if it's because the cafe's there. It's hard to say, but I suspect that speeding here, and I've been living in I'm sitting in my front yard right now, and a car just went past, and the survey will record it. So note the time that we're speaking. That car there, it's 8:34, and that car would have been easily going 90 kilometres per hour. So there's just a perfect example. I'm on the phone right now, and that gentleman or whoever was driving it was absolutely hiking it. So it is quite random.
Councillor Davey, you're next. I have you down straight after. Councillor Davis. So if you just turn your mic off. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Nathan, for your deputation. It's very clear there's some issues along here, and the crashes are very unfortunate. Has there been any SAPOL action taken, do you know? And have there been any speed cameras in use and activated along this street and speedway that you're talking about? Thanks.
That's a good term to use, speedway, yes. The answer to that is in the last 5 years, yes. In the last 12 months, I have not seen SAPOL here.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Davis.
This is more to the administration following up after this petition. My understanding is that a petition normally triggers a report. Will this trigger a report, or is this the report at the council motion?
Through Madam Mayor, I think one of your fellow elected members is looking to add to this motion to take care of that question.
No, it doesn't answer my question. So yeah, so are you saying that the administration won't normally prepare a report after receiving a petition like this?
Sorry. Administration would normally prepare a report after this, but I think for the sake of clarity, one of your fellow elected members is going to prompt that this evening.
Great, thank you.
All right, I don't have anyone else on my screen, so I will thank you very much, Mr. Limberopoulos, and thank you for coming in and talking to us about Lockwood Road. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, now, I'm going to go through now the reports and, petitions. First petition is 10.4.1. You'd like to move it, Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes,
We'll do these two petitions and then I'll go through the other reports. Okay. Off you go.
I'd like to change the wording of the recommendation, please. Number 1 stays the same, that Council receives and notes the Lockwood Road vehicle speeds petition. Number 2, that administration prepares a report with recommendations for possible solutions to the problem of speeding on Lockwood Road as soon as practicable. That's it.
Yep, and you're okay with that? Administration? Fine. All right. You wish to speak any further on that?
Well,
You're moving it, so you
yes.
can't defer till later.
I can defer. I'll defer to later.
Sorry? You're just going to sum up at the end?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we need a seconder. Councillor George?
I reserve.
You're going to reserve. All right, so Councillor Davis, I saw your hand put on my eye. Did you wish to speak? Or? Yep. Okay, off you go. Councillor Turnbull, turn your microphone off, please.
Yeah, I just want to say that with petitions, this report happens automatically. So that's my understanding in our meeting procedures, that whenever we get a petition, there'll be a report come back to council at a later stage, setting out what it is.
Through a minute, Mayor, can I refer that to Mr. Cooper, just to give us the governance advice on that? Sorry, through a minute, Mayor, just repeating for the benefit of Mr. Cooper. The question was, do the administration automatically prepare a report following the receipt of a petition?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. Petitions are presented to receive a note. So it's really up to the Chamber to determine if they want to take further action. It's not automatic. So in this case, the proposed motion covers the report issue.
Right, can I just alter this slightly so that it becomes number 1, that council receives and notes, and then number 2, that administration prepares a report, so that it reads more fluently. Doesn't change what you've asked for. It's just that, so number 1 is that council receives and notes, and number 2, that administration prepares a report. Just clarifying, makes that clearer. Otherwise it doesn't follow. Now, CEO, would you turn your microphone off? Councillor Hughes, you're next to speak.
I'll speak very briefly.
And so everyone else should...
Yeah. I'm very happy to support this. I'm a regular user of this road and have been for many, many years. Children have gone to kindy on this road. I drop the children at school off this road. And although I don't see people speeding, perhaps as this resident does, I think there's a lot of traffic issues. You've got a section that narrows across a very small bridge over the creek. You've got the school, you've got the church, and I think it's definitely something. And a lot of actual pedestrians as well, walking from Hubby Court, heading down Chisholm Avenue. It's a really, really well-used walking route as well, and it's definitely something that we should be looking at. So I'm very happy to support the motion.
Councillor Lemon, you're next.
Thank you. I'm happy to support it, but I've got a pardon me, I have a question of administration, and this motion gives me the opportunity. So we've been talking about speeds in suburbs quite most of the night. Does anybody know when we last had a speed camera in residential streets, if we've ever had one. Like, I'm just really curious to know whether we ever have speed cameras in our suburbs.
Through Madam Mayor, Mr. Cant, are you aware of any speed cameras being placed in our suburbs? Ever?
Are you talking about SAPOL or council putting them in?
No, SAPOL.
Okay. No, I gather that's what you meant, but I can verify that definitely there have been.
Mr. Cant, go ahead.
Through your worship, I am aware of SAPOL setting speed cameras up through the city on occasions. I can't provide you details of when and where at this time, but happy to take that on notice.
Last one I saw was in Toorak Gardens, on not the next one across from Grant Avenue.
Well, can I speak now, or is there others? Yeah, well, I'm really happy to support this, and particularly if SAPOL does, in fact, put speed cameras on our, internal roads, because 90 kilometres on that residential street is an absolute outrage. And I think if we can do anything to encourage, they don't have to have staff there. If we can do anything to encourage speed cameras on that, apart from looking at other traffic calming measurements, but I have not heard, I've never used that street, I don't think. I might have once. But I cannot believe how dangerous it must be for people that are essentially living in the middle of a residential area to have to put up with that sort of stupidity and that sort of speeds. That's outrageous, 90 kilometres. So I'm very happy to support this.
Councillor Davis is not there. Okay, Councillor Henschke.
Oh, it's got to me.
Can you turn your mic off, please, Councillor Davey?
Have you got me down?
Yes, I have. Yeah, you're next.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I support this motion, and again, another example of, this is a theme, isn't it? We've got residents talking to us tonight about speeding through the city, and look, this is an example of many, many others. My question through the administration is, through the Mayor, pardon, for the administration is, with our citywide master plan, our traffic consultants preparing that citywide master plan, are they preparing reports as well for these type of situations, like Lockwood Road specifically? How are all of these other roads through the city going to be captured in the citywide master plan? Because otherwise I'm just seeing that we could fill our agenda up every week with roads and that have got speeding issues and reports needing to be prepared. Just like your views, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think it's fair to say the City Master Plan isn't going to be able to analyse every single road and traffic issue across the city of Burnside. The City Master Plan will address at a higher level maybe the proposed traffic treatments that we would use to control issues as they arise within the city of Burnside. So I think in this case it's entirely appropriate to deal with these issues as they come before us. Perhaps having regard, though, for the broader picture when we address the specific issue.
Councillor Piggott, you're next.
Actually, Councillor Henschke asked the questions that I was going to ask as to whether so given that's gone, I will speak to the motion, if I may, as to whether the master plan was going to go quite so granular as we've got three of them here tonight. And, I think we're staking a lot on the... having said that, the answer that the CEO gave is consistent with what I think as well. I don't think we should place too much sort of faith in this grand plan coming across and suddenly having a process to fix all these things straight off. So, actually, could I have, I won't speak to it, but could I have, perhaps I just did, Could I just ask a question? I am interested in the deputation had quite a number of, quite a bit of data in regard to how fast people were going. And there was implication, I might have got that wrong, that perhaps we do as well. So I'm just interested what would happen, what is in train or what would likely be in train in regard to Lockwood Road in the absence of Nathan raising a petition amongst his neighbours. Is it on somebody's list to look at and fix?
Through Madam Mayor, might refer that to Mr. Cant as to whether this particular situation was on our radar to deal with.
Thank you. Through your worship, just pulling up some information now, bear with me. It's fair to say that we've been aware of this resident's concerns for a period of time now. We have undertaken a number of traffic volume and speed surveys over a period of time. In fact, we did 8 separate surveys across 2 locations in Lockwood Road between August 2019 and July 2020. The information that was provided by the deputy was correct. There were 1,500 vehicles per day on average. The 85 percentile speed was 51 kilometres per hour, and the average speed was 44 kilometres per hour. And across the 2020 surveys, the average numbers of vehicles exceeding 55 kilometres an hour between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. was 81. The average number of vehicles exceeding 55 kilometres in a 24-hour period was 67. And across the surveys, maximum speeds were also recorded. And it is noted that on each of the surveys undertaken, 1 vehicle per day was recorded exceeding 65. That was 1. And I believe that was the one that was recorded, the max speeds of between 71 and 90 kilometres per hour. I'm unaware of any survey since then. However, it's probably fair to say that there's a difference of opinion between council administration and the resident on whether something needs to be done. However, this calls for a report, and that will allow us to fully provide council all the information requested.
Next person is Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Turnbull, for your motion. Lockwood Road has, from my experience of it, increased traffic volumes and speeds. And in my opinion, I'm a great lover of roundabouts. I think they're the best way to slow down traffic, especially at intersections. So whether that's a possibility in this solutions. I'd also like to see us working with SAPOL to use some speed, traffic cameras. We've actually had them. Someone asked the question, do we have them in Burnside? We certainly have them in Leabrook. They often along Rochester Avenue in Leabrook and along Tusmore Avenue often between Greenhill Road and Kensington Road at various stages. So it is possible that the SAPOL are monitoring these roads, and I think I'd be hopeful that we could add Lockwood Road to that list by negotiation if at all possible, but it's certainly necessary, and I support this motion.
Next is Councillor Jones.
I have a procedural question, if I may. It's 10 to 9, and we haven't got to the officers' reports yet. This should be a motion. This motion should have come as a motion on notice. If you look at our procedures, this is effectively a motion without notice, and it's an end run around our procedures that we're debating it now before all the reports that were formally tabled. And if you look on our procedures, if you vary a motion from what the officers have recommended, it is a motion without notice. And a motion without notice should be debated at the end of the debate, at the end of council, after the people who've taken the time to put in motions on notice, which we probably won't get to tonight, to Councillor Piggott's 2 motions, because straight after we debated this one, I suspect Councillor Davey will do a similar motion without notice change to the petition on Haslam Oval. And whilst I'm happy, I agree in principle to support them, we should follow our procedures and let people who have followed the procedure, like Councillor Piggott, get their debates in before we start tacking things onto petitions. So that's my question of whether my understanding of procedures is right.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to you, Mr. Cooper.
Through the Mayor, as I said before, it really is the Chamber's decision in terms of the motion that they resolve on receipt of a petition. In the past, we've generally just received and noted those petitions, and the administration has brought a report back, but it's entirely within the Chamber and the Council members' remit to debate this item, as they would do with any other item. For the efficiency of the meeting, perhaps it would be thoughtful not to debate a particular item and proceed as Councillor Harvey has suggested to the ones that have been given notice accordingly.
Well, I thank you for that advice. I think we have to finish this one now because we've already expended quite a bit of time on it, and we have got a procedure that does allow for this, and there needed to have been an objection earlier on to say that this was not acceptable at the time to make the change, but the question was raised, and we got advice, and the advice was that it could go ahead, and no other objection was made. So I think we just need to finish this. I'll be guided by the rest of the council if they have an alternative position on this.
No, it's fine.
So. I do have some other people. We need to move on, and I have. Yes, but I've got two other people who haven't spoken yet. Three, in fact. Councillor Jones has. Sorry. Next is Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. I will be supporting the motion, so thank you for that. I thought perhaps the administration, given the number of petitions and deputations we're getting, and we've got the city master plan coming up, we might need to have some better structural governance arrangement around traffic calming and traffic-related issues. Whether or not that's a separate committee that manages them, that's got the expertise, because I don't think they should be politicised in this chamber and for this chamber to have to deal with them all the time. So I just wondered whether or not strategically going forward some sort of other governance structure in place to manage these issues might be a smarter move. Thanks.
Well done. Thank you. Councillor Davis, you're next.
Yeah, it used to be the case. Sorry, I think we should try and fix this if we can. But it used to be the case that a petition automatically triggered a report. That was in our old meeting procedures. I've asked the administration for a motion on notice to actually put that back into our meeting procedures, so we don't have to do this either time. The alternative would be that the administration, in their recommendation, put for petitions which require a report, a recommendation, the report comes back. And then we shouldn't be spending so much time on it. Because when we're talking about how bad it is in Lockwood, actually, it's not. Right? So when this report comes back, you'll see the data that's there, and I think that this council is going to find it very difficult to warrant spending a whole bunch of money if what our general manager has said in relation to the speed limits there and the actual the 85th percentile there. So I think before we go and debate these types of motions, we should go and get that data, because that should be our first point of call. So given what the administration has said tonight, I don't think I'd be supporting continued traffic management there. So I don't think we should all just run off in that direction without seeing that data. And it's a bit pointless spending an hour on it to debate something that we don't know anything about. So, but that would be my suggestion. I'll bring back a motion on notice next council meeting.
Thank you. Now, there's no one else on my screen. Councillor Davey, you wish.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to clarify, because I've heard the debate around here and how we should, as Councillor Cornish said, perhaps manage these issues more strategically. But has not the CEO, and correct me if I'm wrong, advised that we need to raise these issues as they come up, as these two petitions have tonight, so that we can deal with them in an ongoing basis? We can't deal with them all strategically when we're getting these issues raised. Is that a misapprehension on my behalf?
Through Madam Mayor, we shouldn't be stopping the community putting in petitions if they choose to. So, you know, we can't stop that process. Now, I think Councillor Cornish is perhaps talking about where we go from after we get the petition. Is that correct, Councillor Cornish? Yeah. So I'm certainly happy to look at a way of dealing with them once after we get them, that's for sure.
All right, I'm going back to Councillor Turnbull now to summarise.
A quick summary. A petition alerts the council to the problem, but a report allows for further action. And I moved this because it didn't have anything about a report in the papers. So there's no point in having a petition. It gets lost on the way without a report following it up. And so that's why the residents have been trying for years to get action there. The whole time we've been this council term, I've had dealings with the people there who are terrified, and they were not really happy with what the council had done previously about the speed. It seemed to be ad hoc, and they are saying that it's random. They get these cars speeding past. If you turn off Green Hill Road and go down there, you do speed, even if you've got your foot on the brake, you know, gently, you do speed. You just actually do, and you go heaving through High Street. There seems to be needs to be a traffic calmer there, a roundabout or something to help these people who are having big issues with not only speed but with traffic. So I'd like this, I hope that number 2 stays in particularly, that we do get a report. Thank you.
Right, I'll put the motion as it stands on the screen. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. That perhaps we have a break now. It's 4 minutes to 9, and that we resume. Is that you're moving it? Thank you, Councillor Cornish. Seconded, Councillor Davis. All in favour? Right, we will resume. Carried, and we will resume at 8:17. No, 8:07. Yeah, 9:07. I mean. we're going to start the meeting again at 9:00. I did say 9:07, but it's 9:06, according to this clock here that I'm using, because I don't have a computer clock. All right, we start again, and we are looking at now the second petition. That's 10.4.2, the petition for traffic management in the streets surrounding Haslam Oval, and that was Councillor Davey, I believe.
Thank you. I've sent through an amended recommendation to... Have you got that, Helen? Thanks. And it reads that Council receives and notes the traffic management in the streets surrounding Haslam Oval petition. 2, that Council work with Pembroke School to consider and respond to the issues raised in the petition and undertake a traffic and parking survey outside of school holidays, for example in May 2022, and brings a report containing recommendations for the findings to Council as soon as practicable, preferably by the end of June 2022, and allocates funding for this survey from current budget savings. So this has been developed in full consultation with the CEO and Barry Cant.
Before we go on any further, I need to find out whether it is in the interests of the whole council to entertain this change at this point, considering the conversation we've had. So I know what you're going to do. So, you know, we have done one. Are we going to do the other? I need a direction from you. Well, someone can do that. I do want to get some indication from the meeting if you're prepared to accept this.
I'm happy to accept.
Right? Okay, that's what I was after. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I needed. Thank you. Well, before that, Councillor Piggott wishes to make a statement.
I haven't even been able to speak.
Apparently that's had...
No, I wish to, before everyone gets completely carried away, I would just like to register a perceived conflict of interest in regard to Pembroke School. My wife's in senior management there, and I will leave the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Piggott. You weren't to know that earlier when I asked for conflicts. So Councillor Davis has moved that the motion be put. Well, that's what I've got to check, all right? We need a live motion, so it has to be seconded first before I can accept Councillor Davis's move to that the motion be put. Thank you. I just want to make sure I get it right. Okay. So I seek a seconder for Councillor Davies' motion. Councillor Turnbull, you're seconding it.
I thought we were doing buttons.
Sorry, we were.
Yes, but I'd like Councillor Davies, doesn't she still get to speak to her motion? Yeah.
Thank you. So we've received a full petition signed by over 200 residents of Beulah Park, particularly in the streets such as Gers Road, Catherine, Margaret, Andrews, Salop Street, Melrose Avenue, and in Kensington Park, the Parade and Dunstan Avenue, all of whom have taken the time to sign to register their concern at the volumes of traffic active in and through this area, and also the multiple parking issues associated with local activities, particularly around the Oval, and particularly for them just to be able to get in and out of their driveways when there's lots of activity on. We've heard tonight how the parking issues have increased incrementally in recent years in these streets, with the intensive use of Haslam Oval for school sporting activities, as well as for those which the Oval has hired out for little athletics, etc. And this is allied with a lot of the business and church activities in the area, which have increased, particularly on the Parade, and that then spills all of the parking opportunities back to the very narrow streets of Beulah Park, affecting, again, the residential amenity. There are also increasing volumes of traffic using these small streets to rat run, particularly between the Parade, Beulah Road and McGill Road and along Gers Road and Melrose Avenue. All these issues may mean that when we have done a survey and have the data, we can consider some of the suggestions that have been made, such as reduced speed limits, residential parking permits, better line marking and signage on each street, adjustments by the school, and talking to the school will help with how they can manage this, and increased ranger patrols. The residents are very strong on this and having access to the ranger when they do have problems and they can't get out of their driveway. Or there may be other controls that could be introduced in these increasingly congested road traffic networks around Beulah Park. These issues are all exacerbated too when there is construction activity in one or more streets, meaning greater pressure on parking and access through the road networks. The streets are often blocked by huge pumper trucks with concrete, with ute trucks. So there's a whole lot of issues associated with the urban infill and development in the area too. So I ask for your support for this. The issues associated with the confusion regarding what is required on the petition template will be considered when I raise this issue at the next council meeting, which I intend to do. So I'll stop right there. I hope you support this motion and we can get the report and some data. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes? I don't need to speak, it's okay. No. Councillor Davis, are you still wishing to run your motion?
Is anyone else going to talk?
Yeah, I've got a...
No, Councillor.
Yeah, then I'll move the motion to put.
Right, the motion's been moved, the motion be put.
Oh, can I ask a question?
No.
Oh, sorry, you wanted me to go. I'm happy to move in accordance with the recommendation about the fees and charges. I just have a query about the dog kennels impound daily fee and the changes that we've made to now have a 72-hour dog holding facility. And I'd like some clarification, please, about this being increased from, this allowing an increase of an apparently 3-day holding for dogs in a facility that I didn't even know existed, to be honest. When I did a tour of the shed, no one showed me the dog holding facility.
I've got to declare an interest. Oh, the Dog and Cat Management Board, we're talking about this. I talked about this today.
It's meant to be a secret.
Thank you.
It's in the report. It's in the report. Yes, so my question is, are we holding dogs for up to 3 days? I mean, if one's picked up on Friday afternoon, that we like to have it there till Monday if we can't find its owner. And I just want to know how they're cared for and looked after.
Through Madam Mayor, I understand Mr Cooper gave a detailed response, but I'll get Mr Cooper, for the benefit of the meeting, just to share some of those details.
Thank you, through the Mayor. As I said this afternoon, the purpose of moving to a 3-day facility is not to allow 3 days for someone to pick up their dog. It is the alternative to a 12-hour facility, which means that under the current model, a person who cannot pick up their dog in the afternoon due to work, etc., will have to drive to Edinburgh North the following day. The 72-hour facility will actually enable those dogs to be collected the following day from us, and providing a far better service to the community. We currently have the capacity for 5 dogs, and that will reduce to 4 when we increase the sizes of the cages for holding purposes. And the rangers will be attending once a day when a dog is in the facility to make sure they're fed and exercised in the morning, and we'll also be monitoring that by remote CCTV. Any council member is very welcome to see the facilities. They're at the back of the shed, next to the depot loading bays. It's just a small room with the 5 cages in there at the moment, which we're hoping to refurbish to upgrade the facility. This has been done with the approval of DACO to make sure that we're providing adequate provision for the dogs.
Thank you, Mr Cooper. Now,
follow-up question.
Councillor Davey.
Are we doing providing services to other councils to hold their dogs in this facility? Is that what this is enabling us to do? And why the secrecy surrounding all of this? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, there's certainly no secrecy from my perspective. The answer to your question is yes. I am having conversations with surrounding councils. Again, we're not envisaging that this will become, we'll have 4 dogs in that facility every day of the week. It is a courtesy that we are providing to our residents, as it were. And in terms of the legislation we've got to comply with, this essentially was the only way to go.
And I have to say, there was no secrecy about it. We were informed that this was a facility that would exist within the shed area when the shed was being designed. Now, Councillor Hughes was next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick question of the administration. Does the CCTV have sound?
Through Madam Mayor, I'll need clarification from Mr Cooper on this one, but I assume the answer is yes. But Mr Cooper will confirm.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I didn't quite catch the end of what you said there, Councillor Cornish. Did you say, does the video have sound?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Next one is Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. Has there been a risk assessment done for this 72-hour dog facility option?
Through Madam Mayor, yes, it complies with all the relevant legislation, and council is fully compliant.
And I'd like a follow-up question.
Is this related to dogs?
Yes. Yes? No, sorry. Oh, I see. Sorry, Councillor Lemon, I didn't see you coming in.
She has to leave the room, so
Right.
third time she's left the room.
Right.
Stay out. Right, so your question?
Yes, my question is there an alternative to this model of a 72-hour dog facility? Because it sounds like we're in the business of dog kennels.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm not having the debate this evening about the model. No. This is the model we've got as a council. Yep. This is about putting the fees and charges around that.
Yep. This model, I believe, has existed for a long time. Are there any further questions? Councillor Davey, and then sorry, I apologise, Councillor Carbone, I've got your name down, and then Councillor.
Thank you, Worship. A question to the CEO, and I ask only because it's been raised, and yes, I am at fault. It was in the report, so I'm sorry about that. I was always under the assumption that, and I was told of this, that our dog holding facility was to remain confidential to avoid any potential break-ins and, you know, dog stealing and so forth, especially if there's any contentious issues.
Well, through Madam Mayor, I can't speak for the previous advice you've got, but
it's not relevant to the fees and charges.
But yeah, no, I'm prepared to say that I've certainly got no intention of keeping the location confidential.
I'd ask you not to interrupt, please, Councillor Davis.
Point of order. So if the question is in relation to the fees and charges, it's not relevant.
Right, now it is Councillor Davey.
Just one quick question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Are cats contained in this? What do we do with cats if they need to be contained?
Again, I agree with you, Councillor Davis. Before you, these kind of questions should have been raised through the CEO or to the CEO prior to this meeting. If you had questions about this, this is supposed to be about the fees and charges that we are establishing tonight. So can we please focus those questions on that and that alone? Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question about the fees and charges? Not about our operations on how it happens, but fees and charges. If not, then I shall go back to Councillor Davey to summarise. Right, I'll put the motion then. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now we will move to the two additional motions tonight, and they're both from Councillor Piggott. Land agreements was the first one on page 57.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, last meeting we did, we were given a report on the land management agreements. We'd had 10 of them audited, I think, out of 125. They came back not disastrous. It certainly threw up some issues that might sit within them. I did talk to administration about how, look, my view is that we should not just let them sit in the bottom drawer and with the risk, I think, of us or future councils, you know, something coming up the other direction that really we should have known about on a land management agreement that hadn't been overseen adequately. I do feel that we should try and have a crack at finding out across the whole of the of all the LMAs the level of compliance. Now, I came up with a reasonably comprehensive way, but it's at this stage probably cost prohibitive. And so what I suggest we do, or what I feel we should do, is we shouldn't just let this sit. I think we should at least initially, it was actually Councillor Davis's suggestion last time, have a crack at going out to each of the LMA holders and ask them the question. You know, you're supposed to have done this, have you? And let's see what we get, because I would think we will get, you know, I would feel that most people who actually signed it off and said, yes, we are compliant, probably will be, by and large. There may be some people who are prepared to do that without being compliant. And we'll have some people who probably won't respond. So that, at this point, as an initial point, let's see what happens out of that exercise. It's a pretty much a desktop office thing that I understand could largely be done through current resources. And at the end of it, we would have a view, perhaps, of the you know, how we feel about all of them. I think ultimately we do need to get a grip on all these land management agreements and either decide that they're all far too long ago and discard them, or if they are still in the ability to be managed and ensured compliance, we should have a system to do that. This is really just the first step to not let the situation drop based on what we were given last time. So I seek your support of it.
Councillor Davis, you wish to second?
Yep. And I'd just like to head off at the pass before someone starts trying to wax lyrical about how asking them they'll lie and the data will be corrupted and all this kind of stuff. I did do a master's course on how the ATO administers things, and actually like volunteering information and being voluntarily compliant and providing information to government is actually incredibly successful. So the vast majority of our population doesn't lie blatantly, and in my view this would be the most expeditious and cheapest way to get a huge amount of information very quickly. For those people who don't reply, well, potentially that's when we can go and spend a little bit more extra time to actually go and have a look at it. So I do think this would be a really good start. I think that it was certainly cost prohibitive last time, but I do think we'll get a good amount of data back, and this is certainly a worthwhile first step that will cost us a template letter, probably annexing what the land management agreement was, and a postage stamp. So I do believe this is the best way forward, and we should get a lot of data back from that. So I support the motion. I think this is the best way forward.
Councillor Davey.
I think that was me.
No, turn yours off.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I commend Councillor Piggott for his motion. I think it's excellent, and I'm happy to support it. I won't elaborate anymore.
Now, Councillor Hedge.
Oh.
Then I have Councillor Lemon, and then I have Councillor Dawes to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a great idea. It's always good to engage, and certainly this is like could be reframed very, very positive letter, raise awareness with the owners of their land management agreement, help them out maybe. They might need help, I don't know, trimming trees with their arborists, you know, that sort of thing, could get a grant, not sure. So, yeah, all in all, a really positive way to get information that we can work with. Thank you, councillors.
Councillor Lemon.
Thank you. I just have a question, and that is whether we can do this efficiently. These land management agreements, there's some 125 of them around about. Are they at hand? We can put our hands on them fairly quickly and then photocopy them and send them out with a standard letter. Is that so? It's not going to take more than a day?
Through Madam Mayor, I don't know if it not take more than a day.
Well, you know what I mean.
But no, we've certainly worked with Councillor Piggott on this one, and we're very comfortable we can implement this efficiently.
Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, I think we're talking about 100 land management agreements here, aren't we? Sending out about 100, is that right? 105, okay. I think this is a fishing expedition. I'm sorry. If I got this letter from the council, it would indicate to me that the council is not doing its job. We're not, they're trying to seek information from us. So being a fishing expedition, you know what fisher people think. They always exaggerate one way or the other. I think they won't either respond. I heard what Councillor Davis said, but If I was one of these people, I wouldn't respond. I'm sorry. Even though I'm an honest person, I wouldn't respond because they don't know what they're doing, council. We're opening ourselves up to criticism from the residents. We really are. We've got a motion that was passed from Councillor Davey last time to do a little bit more exploration. We'll get a bit more from that. But to send it to 100, I think this is going to cause issues for us long term. I know compliance is an issue. You've heard me say this before. It's our Achilles heel, but I don't believe this is the right way of doing it.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I like this motion. Thank you, Councillor Piggott. Hear what Councillor Dawes has said. I do disagree about responses. I think that given a moment's meditation, if I was to receive one of these friendly requests for information in the post, I would jump to the conclusion pretty quickly that if I didn't respond, I would probably get looked at before anyone else. May not initially think that, but I reckon given a bit of time pondering, do I, don't I respond, I think most people would probably jump to that conclusion. And I'd go so far as to say, if we should actually go after the people that don't respond first. If they don't volunteer the information, we should seek it out ourselves. Yes, compliance is a major issue, and we just don't have the resources to be doing it in an ongoing way. And every now and then things come to a head. We've had a lot of LMAs come forward that's pushed this issue for this chamber. Yes, it's a little bit out of the box. It's a creative way of looking at what I think really is a problem. I think the system as it is not working because we keep hearing about breaches of LMAs. Of course, we're not hearing about the ones that are compliant, but this, I guess, would give us a bit of an opportunity to give some people a bit of a pat on the back if they're doing the right things. So I like this motion and I hope it gets up.
Councillor John.
Yeah, I'm going to support this motion, and I'm going to say if we get criticised, we deserve it. Because we haven't followed up on these things for 20 years. And I think we'll actually then get some kudos as the current council for doing something about it, albeit somewhat late. So I'm going to support the motion.
Councillor Lemon.
I too will support this for a different reason. I think we have, as a council and administration, we have a relationship with every ratepayer in this city. And with some ratepayers, we have a bit more of a relationship. And those people that have land management agreements with us, we have a bit more of a relationship with. So I think that writing to them, absolutely, I don't think that's a reputational problem. I think that establishes the fact that we have a bit more of a relationship with them and it's meaningful. We care, we ask, and I think it's a great idea. I can't see how any harm can come of it, and much good and meaningfulness could.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, do residents know that they have a land management agreement? Because I noticed in one of the ones we had last time was a neighbour of a friend of mine, and they have only been there about 3 years, and one of their issues was they've cut trees down. Well, they weren't there. They can say, not us, we know nothing about this. So how's that going to be resolved?
Through Madam, my understanding is they would have been made aware of that at the time of purchase.
All right, I don't have anyone else on the screen, so I'm going back to Councillor Piggott. All right, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against, the motion is carried. The next one is yours also, Councillor Piggott. Dangerous driving and illegal rubbish dumping. What's your problem, Councillor Davis? Sorry?
Oh, okay.
Well, can Councillor Piggott speak first?
Look, this is the third one of these. It's a little bit different actually. This one, the motion's coming before the petition comes to council. We did hear from Mr. Baram earlier, who is in the process of putting a petition together. Henry and I have received a number of queries about particularly the speeding and the dangerous driving. The petition goes a bit more widely than that, but it is related to the same area. I was of the view that actually it was something that needed to be looked at irrespective of a petition. And I certainly haven't discouraged the petition because I think it could be pretty useful down the track when if this gets up and we get a report back, there may be some things that council might need to progress or decide to progress, and a petition may help that. So it's not being wasted, but what this does is seek a report very specifically around the issues around Coach Road and Haven Road. It's actually the racetrack there is, I don't know how well people know the place, but you can actually, apparently what happens is you come off the McGill Road onto Connell Road, which is the extension of the parade. You go up the hill around Penfold Road, left onto Coach Road, take a pretty fast left-hand turn, go up to the top, turn right in a hurry, still on Coach Road, left in a hurry up the hill, around a couple of curves, and eventually you get to the lookout. The lookout's actually a pretty good lookout. I venture that it's probably one of the best views of Adelaide that's going around. It's not one of the best lookouts going around. It's also got a great view of the quarry that's currently under debate, White Rock Quarry, to the north. Then on the way back, you actually have the added bonus that it's a really fast left-hand turn. That the picture in the papers shows where the guy didn't quite make it and he's rolled into the veranda of one of our residents. But the bonus is if you do make that corner and you're heading down, heading down Coach Road, you've got the benefit of one of our traffic speed signs. So you can actually work out how fast you are going, which is very exciting. Anyway, I feel the deputation really did, it explained it. There's a lot of stuff in the papers as well. What I'm asking for, or what we're asking for, is some work to be done about what is possible. There's actually a few complexities. The illegal rubbish dumping is also quite a major play up there, and it does need some administration expertise as to what is possible, what it might cost, in terms to address these issues that are affecting the people of Skye, and also the people of Aldana and ultimately McGill on the end of the path back towards McGill Road, because we've also got complaints coming from there about dangerous driving, and it appears to be the same people.
Time.
Can I just suggest, in addition to this, we had some similar problems about 10 years back on Mount Osmond, and especially with the cars crashing through the same property. The addition of a piece of guardrail has solved that. We've not had any problems since. So you might want to include guardrail in this, unless you've already intimated that it's there. Yeah. Yeah, you might want to... Yeah, I know it says not limited to, but it's just something that has worked really well. It stopped one house got twice crashed into because there was no guardrail on the bend, and the guardrail's there now. We haven't had any problem in the last 10 years. Okay. So just a suggestion.
Thank you. I just respond to that if I can get the lost it.
Councillor Davis, you're seconding?
Yeah, okay. Yes, thank you. You're seconding.
Yeah, I'm seconding. I can run down the hill at 30 kilometres, which is actually pretty fast, but not as fast as Usain Bolt. It is a very steep hill. The speed camera does turn off at a figure, so you can't measure your max speed. But it is, yeah. Sorry, just thought I'd add that detail. Don't ask me how I know that. And it always has been a problem, I think, and I don't think we really have come to a solution on it to date. And I know the administration has looked at it in the past, and there has been requests for police to come out, particularly to monitor Coach Road, up and down. So I think there will be information the administration has previously, but it would be good to have a fresh look at it, I think, and potentially even do another traffic study if we can on that spot. But I think we do already have data on that as well. But it's a good thing to support.
Councillor Dawes?
Yeah, to me, this is back to front. I'm sorry. There's going to be a draft petition. We haven't seen it. I found it very difficult to hear Mr. Barham tonight. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen the petition before us. In fact, we would have discussed this earlier under number 3, so therefore would have satisfied Councillor Jones' concern. But we've talked about resident-focused matters, and the residents have complained, but I haven't heard from them. So I'm just wondering, when Councillor Piggott summarises, can he explain to me why he has put this before we've seen the petition? We've seen the draft, but we don't even know whether it's just Mr. Barham or whether it's 2 or 3 people. I'm sure it's a lot, but I'd like to do it the other way around from where I sit.
Councillor Henschke.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a question for the administration, please, through the Mayor. This motion acknowledges the incidents of dangerous driving, etc. Does the motion need to alert SAPOL, or is that just a given that the administration's alerted SAPOL of dangerous driving, etc.? Is it something the administration does routinely anyway?
Through Madam Mayor, the way I'm treating this is that an elected member has brought their concerns to the chamber and suggested we look at some of the issues. If incidences happen that we think are a SAPOL matter, in any situation, we would do that as a matter of course. I don't need a council resolution to tell me to do that. So for me, for my mind, this is Councillor Piggott bringing his concerns to the chamber for us to consider a way forward. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. This is very much like what was happening up at Anzac Lookout a few years ago before our time in council, but other people remember it. Same thing, dangerous driving, illegal rubbish dumping, plus the hoon behaviour. Now that seems to have settled down, so maybe admin could look at how they manage that. We haven't had any complaints in the last 4 years of that sort of thing. But I used to remember reading in the now defunct Messenger just about every week about police being called up there and et cetera, et cetera. So maybe there could be some lessons learned from that.
Is there anyone else who would... Oh, sorry, I didn't see you, Councillor Hughes.
No, that's okay. Yeah. I just wanted to perhaps help Councillor Piggott sum up to address Councillor Dawes' response, and that is that just because some things don't have to come as a petition to council before we, as elected members, can deal with it. And I guess my hearing from what Councillor Piggott and Councillor Davis has said this evening is they've been contacted by this resident. It's been an ongoing matter, and I think if we can get in and get the staff onto it to try and alleviate some of the concerns of residents, then we don't need to wait for a petition to do that. We can just do that as an elected body. I'm happy to support it for that reason. I'm not massively familiar with the area, but earlier in January, when that car flew off the street, my husband was one of the CFS members that responded to the incident, and he was like, it was pretty scary how fast people would have been going to get the car where it did. So I think we do have an issue. Thank you, Councillor Piggott, for bringing it to the chamber, and Councillor Davis. I'm sure you both work together, and I'm very happy to support it.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I'll be supporting the motion. 153 kilometres an hour is way too fast for any local street. I don't know how anyone can do that up there. I'd be petrified, absolutely petrified, the couple of times that I have driven up there. I think the last time we took the council bus to have the tour, the bus almost burnt out trying to lift us up that hill. Come down that thing, my God, it's scary, a very scary road, and doing 153 kilometres an hour, no, let's vote on this and get some action. Thank you.
I think one of the issues is that the groups move around, and the issues, we've had a number of those sort of issues at Mount Osman up at the lookout up there over the last couple of years particularly, and you know the cylinders from soda siphon bottles, illegal dumping's an ongoing thing, and I think people see it as, oh, this is the country, we'll just do whatever we like and dump anything. and you're suffering. We have suffered. It's got a lot better, but I think anywhere in the hills face suffers at some of these issues. But I have to say, this is much worse. And I'm not allowed to support this, but I do have seen these problems on Mount Osmond, and I'm just seeing these moving to different places. And you said before, Anzac Lookout as well. So it's about people finding a place where they can hide out from a crowd or from residents and make a nuisance of themselves. Right, I'm going back to Councillor Pickett because I have no one else there on my list.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You may yet get to vote. Might go 6-6, so don't go early. Yeah, look, I probably would answer I probably does bear an explanation. We've been contacted, particularly in the last couple of weeks. The accident sort of did stimulate it further by a whole swag of residents in and around Skye. The intention actually was to bring it here without the need necessarily for a petition. It does need to be sorted out, and it shouldn't necessarily need a resident walk up and down his street and get people to sign a petition for us to take action on it. However, he was very keen to do it and has started the process, and he will continue that process, and we will eventually get that petition. But that's why you've got sort of half a petition or a draft petition, which administration put in with my motion on notice that I sent in. So that's where that's come from. I understand it's a bit unusual, but that is why. And Councillor Hughes is right, I think. These things don't necessarily need a petition, and this one doesn't either. Look, it is something that's not necessarily going to be solved completely. The corner where the accident was, the suggestion by the Mayor or something equivalent, I think, is something that does need to be looked at in terms of what protects. You have to, the fact that people will go fast around there, and it is a tight corner. And the motion was sort of deliberately not quite as specific as the resident put it out, to give administration free range really as to what could be done around these issues. And so that's really the story behind it. So I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Those in favour? Those against? Carried. At item 14, I would just like to take the opportunity under other business to wish Councillor Carbone all the best for Sunday, which is when he is getting married. So I think we all give you your good wishes to you and Angela, and hope that you have a very happy life together. So I'd like us to just give us a... Make sure all the microphones are switched off.
Can we just move that the motion be accepted?
What motion? We've got to go into confidential mode first. And it needs to make sure that all microphones... Oh, okay, fine. Councillor Cornish is always good at this. Thank you, Councillor Cornish. And Councillor Hughes has seconded it. So all those in favour to move into confidential mode? Those against?